And we're back with another episode of Pure Perspectives. I'm Clark Alexander. I'm sitting down with Gary Pierce. Gary, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
Reminder people, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, leave us a comment. We love to hear from you. Today we are going to talk about, this is a question we get quite a bit, and it typically comes in the form of, are you the guy that lends the money, or who is the guy and who am I talking to? I think what we're hearing with a lot of customers we're talking to, they're having trouble discerning between a lender, a broker, a bank. All these terms are thrown at them and they don't know who at the end of the rainbow is going to give them what they want. So we're going to talk a little bit about how Pure Funding is structured, the advantage of working with a company like us. And then at the end, we'll talk about really the real reason it's important. And that is, price and rate and cost, right? So I guess, Gary, if you could start by saying, like, what's the difference between a lender and a broker?
Yeah. So I think the biggest in the way we're set up is that we're a mortgage broker. And the best analogy that I think most people understand is your insurance agent, right? So you call your insurance, not your State Farm agent, not your Allstate agent, but you call like a Goosehead agent and you say, hey, I need to get a new auto policy. And that agent is then going to go and they're going to look at their long list of carriers because they represent multiple carriers, right?
Yep.
And they're going to say, okay, based on your information, your situation, here's the best rate for you. Here's the best policy based on what you have. We work the same way. So when you come to Clark or myself or Willis or anybody on the team and you're trying to understand like, okay, how did we get to this point? Well, we do all the same thing that an insurance agent does. We get your application, we get your documents, we get your pay stubs, W-2s, all that stuff, bank statements. And then, we put it into the system. We put that information in the system. And then we have a list of investors or lenders that we work with on their behalf, essentially, where we, they're fighting for our business. So they're coming in at, good rates. And so we look at it and there's a lot of factors that come into it, right? Like product. Is it a conventional loan or a bank statement loan, which not everybody does? So maybe that's a different investor, and so those are the things that we'll look at to determine the best place based on the investors that we have for your situation.
Yep.
So the analysis done on the front end, we take a look at it and then we say, okay, based on that, here's going to be the best situation for you. Speed. Maybe you got a quick close. Not every one of our investors are going to close in less than 30 days, right? Like, so there, we've got levers to pull.
Yeah, I would say the thing I remind people is like lenders want business too. Like our lenders that we work with, so they're being competitive. We hear from them multiple times a day, right? They want to stay top of mind in front of us because they want that next scenario that we run into to come their way. They want us to bring the next customer their way. And I think one of the things early on when I was talking to Gary about Pure Funding right before I joined, I'm like, well, what's the differentiator? Like, how do you guys set yourselves apart? It's like, hey, we'll take the hard stuff. We're glad to take the hard stuff. And we can take the hard stuff for a number of reasons. One is we've got a team that has been through it and can handle those things. But the other thing is we, as Gary mentioned, we have a wide array of products and all of those products have different guidelines and different rules that we need to follow. So we can typically find a spot for that tough loan. Whereas if you're walking into a bank off the street and you're saying, hey, I need this, but this is the scenario, it's a little tricky. You might get this like, hey, no, we can do it if you do, if you're, if you fall within these guidelines, we'd do it. But what you need, we're not going to help you. So I think it's a big part of it is flexibility too, no?
Yeah, I think so. In defense of those organizations, because I've been at them and they're set up to be streamlined and efficient within the parameters that they have. So banks, for instance, they might be pretty narrow in what they'll allow. So maybe they're going to be, hey, W-2 self-employed, but they're not going to have that bank statement product to back it up. Not saying all banks don't have bank statements, because I'm sure some of them do. But when somebody says, I hear consumers say, well, they wouldn't do this loan for me. And it's not that they won't do it for you. It's just they don't have the capability. They don't have the product set. They don't have the investor, or they're not willing to, what they call portfolio that loan or put that under the bank's umbrella and take that risk. They don't have that risk tolerance. Everything is based on risk, right? And so it's not anything negative to them. And they're probably really good in their lane, but that lane is the lane, and to be good at what they do, they have to be limited. And there's lenders that are the same way, retail lenders that are the same way. They got to be in their lane. Like I used to, at our old company, we tried to do more farm and ranch just because we're down here, but it just, our underwriters weren't set up for it. Our investors weren't set up for it. Processors weren't set up for it. So you got to stay in your lane as a business, right? And so that's where I think, we just don't like to say no. And that's really the benefits we have.
Yeah, I would say that's a good point, Gary. When you say so-and-so wouldn't do the loan for me or said they can't do the loan for me, it isn't that you're not capable or have the ability to get the loan. You're out of their lane, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have a way to take that risk to give you that loan. Whereas we have a number of places we can go, and they are constantly updating us with new products, new guidelines on products. They'll loosen the credit score requirements. They'll loosen the seasoning of funds available. There's a number of different levers they pull. So part of our job, and like today, I think we have 1 or 2 calls with lenders. We're constantly staying updated with what they're offering, what their new products are, and how that services a niche in the market. So yeah, I think it's, I hate to use the term Swiss Army knife, but it kind of is. You tell us the story, what you want to get. It's our job to say, all right, I know we have these 2 lenders that can accommodate this type of loan. Let's take the scenario to the lender. Let's see what their rates are. And the rates will be different, right? They have different investors, and find the best solution for you. And I'd say that, that's probably leads to the last piece and probably the most important piece, right? The ability to compete on rate via access to a number of lenders gives us a leg up, right? So the scenario you're coming in the door with, we're going to go price it at a number of different lenders. Talk about how that works.
Yeah. So I think that's there's probably 2 or 3 things that I love about being a broker. Pricing is one of them. The less overhead, right? So we don't have the same overhead as a bank, as a retail lender, because we don't need all those headcount. We don't need the headcount because we're partnered with an investor that has that. So they have their cost structure, and our is limited because we don't have the headcount. So we're able to go. We're looking at different investors that across the board. Whether it's we have the one that sells the cheapest salt. We've got one that's well priced and super fast, others that have very unique products that are unusual to the normal kind of conventional financing that a lot of people don't know about. And so that definitely is our ability to say yes more than we say no, is based on that kind of roster of investors that we have access to.
Yeah, so hopefully that gives you guys a view of like what a mortgage broker does and the advantages to this model.
Yeah,
as Gary mentioned, he's been in a number of different companies that are structured differently, and this one I would say is probably the most flexible and allows us to say yes more than we say no. Anything else we want to touch on here, Gary?
No, I think speed and process again, because our headcount is we're not heavy on headcount, we're not heavy on just bodies, so we put bodies in places where loans get done quickly. And so that's in your loan officers and your processing team. And so we have direct communication with our underwriting team. Each investor we have our own group of underwriters that we work directly with on a very regular basis. So they're a phone call away. And it's just we're just more, it's just a more efficient model for the most part. Mortgage is not easy. It's the most imperfect business. I would say real estate in general is as imperfect as it can be. Even on the real estate side, realtors have their own set of issues that they have to deal with clients, seller, listing, and so we have similar conversations basically. But I think speed, pricing, and flexibility.
Yeah, those are the 3 things. I think that's you hit the nail on the head. So hopefully that answers your question of why a mortgage broker, how we differentiate ourselves from banks and lenders, retail, what have you. Hopefully this is informative. Give you a little bit more, give you a bit of a peek behind the curtain of what pure funding is and how we operate and what allows us to be successful in the market. Well, Gary, thanks so much for the information. I think that covers it. I think it hopefully is informative to our audience, and if you guys have other questions like this, leave them in the comments of like, hey, I don't understand this piece of the industry. Tell us. We're happy to do a piece of content on it. So we'll wrap up now. Gary, thanks as always for the time. Reminder,
Yes, sir.
everybody, give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment. Would love to hear from you. And we'll see you back on the next episode of Pure Perspectives. Have a great day.